The walls of my house are thin. They do nothing to block out the screams. Every night, the same routine unfolds. My father stumbles through the front door, his breath thick with the stench of alcohol. My mother waits for him in the kitchen, hoping to keep him calm, to avoid what always comes next. But it never works. He doesn't need a reason. He never has. Tonight is no different. I sit in my small bedroom, hugging my knees to my chest as I hear his voice rising. My mother's soft responses follow, filled with pleading. Then, the sound I dread the most, the sharp slap of skin against skin. My mother cries out. My heart clenches, but I don't move. I should do something. But what? If I go out there, I'll only make things worse. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to block out the sounds, but the crashing noise of a chair hitting the floor jolts me. My breathing quickens. I should call the police. I should run out and stop him. But fear paralyzes me. Then suddenly silence. I wait, holding my breath. I hate this part the most. The moments of quiet that follow, when I don't know if my mother is still standing or if she's collapsed on the floor. I don't realize I'm crying until I feel the warm tears on my cheeks. Tomorrow, she'll act like nothing happened. She'll wake up, clean the mess, and go about her day, as if her body isn't covered in bruises. And I'll pretend too, because that's the only way to survive in this house. But deep down, I know this can't go on forever. One day, something worse will happen, and I have no idea how to stop it. The next morning, the house is quiet, too quiet. I step out of my room cautiously, my bare feet cold against the tiled floor. The air is thick with the smell of stale alcohol. The living room is a mess. An overturned chair, a broken plate, and shattered glass scattered near the kitchen door. And then I see her. My mother is sitting on the floor, her back against the wall. One hand clutches her side, her fingers trembling. A dark bruise has already begun to form on her cheekbone, the skin swollen and tender. Her eyes, red and swollen from crying, lift to meet mine. "Ma!" My voice cracks. I want to rush to her, to hold her, to ask her why she stays. But I already know the answer. "I'm fine, Zara." She forces a smile, a weak, broken thing that makes my stomach twist. Fine. That's what she always says. But I know better. I see the way she winces when she moves, the way she flinches at sudden noises. I see the fear in her eyes when she hears his footsteps. I crouch down beside her, reaching for her hand. "Let's leave, Ma. Please." She shakes her head, her grip tightening around mine. Where would we go? How would we survive? Her voice is barely a whisper, and I can hear the exhaustion in it. She has convinced herself that there's no escape, that this is the life she has to endure. And maybe she thinks she's protecting me by staying. I feel anger bubble inside me, not at her, but at him, at the man who was supposed to love us, but instead turned our home into a prison. I take a deep breath. "I won't let this go on forever," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "One day, we'll leave." She doesn't respond, just looks at me with sad eyes that hold years of suffering. I don't know how, and I don't know when, but I promise myself, this life won't be mine forever. I will find a way out, even if I have to do it alone. Days pass, but the bruises remain. My mother moves slowly around the house, careful not to aggravate her injuries. She barely speaks unless necessary, and when she does, her voice is hollow, like she's already given up. And my father? He acts as if nothing ever happened. He leaves for work in the morning, comes home in the evening, and when night falls, the monster returns. I've lost count of how many times I've heard my mother's muffled cries, how many times I've clenched my fists in my room, wishing I had the strength to stop him. But last night was different. Last night, for the first time, I stepped out of my room. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the way my mother begged him to stop, her voice shaking with terror. Or maybe I just couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the living room, my legs trembling. "Stop it!" My father froze, his hand still gripping my mother's wrist. He turned slowly, his dark eyes locking onto mine. My mother shook her head frantically, silently pleading with me to go back to my room. But I didn't. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, dangerously calm. "I said stop," I repeated, though my voice came out weaker than I intended. For a moment, he just stared at me. And then he laughed, a cold, cruel sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "Go to your room, Zara. This is between me and your mother." "No," I said, surprising even myself. His expression darkened. He took a step toward me, and for the first time in my life, I felt true fear. "Zara, go!" my mother cried, panic in her voice. But it was too late. Before I could react, his hand shot out, gripping my arm so tightly that pain shot through me. I gasped, my body going rigid. His fingers dug into my skins like claws. "You think you're brave, huh?" he hissed, his breath reeking of alcohol. "You think you can talk back to me?" Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Then, just as suddenly as he grabbed me, he let go, shoving me backward. I stumbled, but caught myself before I could fall. "Next time, don't interfere," he warned, "or you'll regret it." I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked back to my room, my body shaking. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I had tried to stand up to him, and I had failed. But I wouldn't stop, because now I knew something for certain. If I didn't do something soon, one day he would kill her, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I couldn't sleep that night. My arm throbbed where my father had grabbed me, the faint imprint of his fingers still visible on my skin. But that pain was nothing compared to the storm raging inside me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. If I didn't do something, this cycle would never end. My mother would continue to suffer, and we would never be free. But how? Where could we go? How could I convince her to leave? I rolled onto my side, my heart pounding. The thought of running away had always lingered in the back of my mind, but it had never felt real. Until now, I needed a plan. The first step. The next morning, I watched my mother carefully. She moved around the house in silence, her bruises slightly faded, but still noticeable. She avoided looking at me, as if last night had never happened. I hated that. I waited until my father left for work, the front door slamming shut behind him. The moment his car disappeared down the street, I turned to my mother. "We have to leave." She flinched, startled by my sudden words. "Zara, not this again." "Yes, this again," I insisted. "Last night, he almost hit me. What if next time he doesn't stop? What if one day I swallowed hard, unable to finish the sentence. "Ma, we can't keep living like this." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "Where would we go? We have no money, nowhere to stay." I had expected this. She had said the same things before, but this time, I was ready. "I'll figure it out," I said firmly. "I can get a job. We can stay somewhere, even if it's just for a little while. Anything is better than this." She shook her head. "It's not that easy, Zara." "Then tell me, what's easy about staying?" My voice cracked. "What's easy about hiding in my room every night, praying he doesn't kill you?" She looked away, her lips pressed together. I softened my tone. "I don't want to lose you, Ma." Silence stretched between us. For a moment, I thought she would refuse again. But then, something changed in her eyes. Something small, but real. A flicker of doubt. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally listening. I knew convincing her wouldn't happen overnight, but it was a start, and I wasn't going to stop until we were free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.